So Jim Scott from Garland, Pennsylvania, welcome. How did a Jim Scott get interested in car racing? Is that something that was sort of farm field type thing?
Well, we did mechanics all our life,
right.
and drove tractors and whatever, but I had a friend, Richard Johnson, that drank a lot, and he came to my house at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, knocked on the door. I don't know if he knocked on the door or not, but he came in my bedroom and says, we got to build a race car. And why do we need a race car? He said. And he says, because I just made a $10 bet with Rodney Peters that we were going to beat him on Sunday. Well, I said, we don't have a car. He said, I know where there is one. It's $100. He said, you got $50? I'll come up with $50. We'll have us a race car. So we went to Corey the next day, bought a 46 or 47 Ford two-door sedan, brought it home, took the upholstery out, cut the fenders off. That's all you did, and then you had a race car. But we needed roll bars. Well, we called around, nobody could put roll bars in for us, so we decided to go to the racetrack without any roll bar. And but on the way up, we stopped at a man's place called Warney Little, and he welded in some roll bars for us. An old piece of 2-inch pipe he welded around the back of my head. And the only injury I had the first day I raced was when the roll bar fell down and hit me on the head. But I did finish third in my first race, and Rodney Peters finished behind me, and Dick got his $10, and I've been racing ever since.
What year was this, Jim?
It would have been 56.
Did you say, and where would that have been?
Pardon, sir?
What racetrack? Was that?
Rollable. That would be at the Rollable.
No kidding.
And we left home early Sunday morning with that car, hooked on a 20-foot chain behind his 51 Ford. And I steered the race car, and he hauled me up there, and we stopped and got the roll bars put in, and raced it and towed it back home. But the next week we had a big improvement in our towing. This was your first race? This was my first race.
Your first race ever was at Rollable?
Rollable, yeah.
My gosh.
At first racetrack. The second week, a big improvement in our getting to the racetrack. We put a pipe, run the chain through a pipe so that the front car would stop the rear car. So you didn't have to drag the brakes all the time to keep the chain tight. Great improvement. It was the second year of racing before I had a tow bar. Right. Mechanics all our life, right. and drove tractors and whatever, but I had a friend, Richard Johnson, that drank a lot, and he came to my house at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, we got to build a race car. And why do we need a race car, he said. And he says, because I just made a $10 bet with Rodney Peters that we were going to beat him on Sunday. Well, I said, we don't have a car. He said, I know where there is one. It's $100. He said, you got $50? I'll come up with $50. We'll have us a race car. They called it a racetrack, but really it was an obstacle course. It had a stream run through the center. The front straightaway, when you went into the first and second turns, there was a huge mud hole. And it kept, the first few times we raced there, it was only 6 or 8 feet in diameter. By the time we got done racing there, it was 30, 40 feet in diameter. It was this huge water puddle. And cars always drowned it out, you know, because you're going through that water. And then you clumb a hill, and the rear straightaway was probably elevated 50, 60 feet higher than the front straightaway. Then 3 and 4, you broke down over a hill and crossed a bridge. And that's bridge is where I lost my front teeth.
Tell me about that. We might as well stop and tell me the story.
Well, it had to have been the second year I raced here, because I spent the winter building a flathead engine. I took it in our house and put it in our spare bedroom and put a couple sawhorses and a board in there. And
In your bedroom?
Yeah, in the spare bedroom. Not in my bedroom, but in the spare bedroom. And I worked all winter on that. I built me a race motor.
Yeah.
And I ground it and polished it, and I saved up, I think, $35 and bought a racing camshaft. And a friend of mine gave me a set of adjustable lifters, and that was a race engine, you know. Probably had a total of $150 in it, and they had an extra lap race, and I don't know whether it was a 35 lap race, a 50 lap race, or whatever, but I know I started way, way back in it, and I got up to where I figured I was second or third or fourth, and I was in pretty good shape, and I'd been running the car really hard, and it was overheating, so I shifted it back into high gear when I was going across the back straightaway, which was the elevated straightaway. Started down the hill, it hit my brakes, and I didn't have any brakes. I tried to get it back in second gear, and I didn't get it in second gear, and I went off the end of the bridge and plowed into the bank, and of course, all I had for a seatbelt was an old hame strap off a horse harness, and I don't recall what I had for a helmet, but it wasn't much. And I hit my face on the steering wheel, knocked out my front teeth, and broke my nose, and of course it knocked me unconscious. And some guys come to the car to get me out, and about that time another car come down over the bank and landed right on the roof of the car I was in. And because I don't believe they stopped the race. Back then, you just didn't stop the race.
No yellow flag, huh?
Because, no, there was no yellow flag. There was either a green flag or a red flag, you know. And when I come to in the ambulance, which was an old Pontiac station wagon, there was another guy in there sitting on the cot at my feet. And he was split from here to here. And his scalp, it fell down. He didn't have any ears because his scalp had fell down over his ears. And, well, there was little squirts of blood coming up out of his head, you know, from the arteries, you know, I suppose. And I told them people, that nurse, or the lady that was taking care of us, I said, don't worry about me. You better do something with him, you know.